Welcome to Tech in the Right Direction, the podcast. This week, I'll be speaking with Rachel Meranus. Rachel is the CMO of Transfix, a leading digital freight tech company. Rachel has spent the last 2 decades leading marketing and communications across a variety of venture-backed B2B SaaS companies in the comms tech, martech, and ad tech sectors. Rachel's expertise lies in building high performance marketing teams, establishing go to market strategies, processes, and infrastructure to create long term scalable growth, developing cross departmental alignment to drive opportunity and accountability across sales, customer success, product, and marketing, understanding the market and the customer through primary research, building differentiated, empathetic, and trusted brands, and managing multi-million dollar marketing budgets. She has built and led marketing teams most recently as CMO at Botify, an enterprise SEO technology company, CMO at Olapic, now Olapic by Social Native, a leader in visual marketing technology, CMO at MediaMath, a leader in ad tech, and SVP at PR Newswire Cision. Rachel is a native New Yorker hailing from the Upper West Side who now lives in Montclair, New Jersey, with her husband, 2 children, and a 15-pound cockapoo. When she's not marketing high growth brands or acting as an Uber driver with her 2 teenagers, Rachel can be found swinging kettlebells or doing yoga. Welcome to the show, Rachel. I'm so excited to have you on.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. I'm really excited to be here.
All right, let's get started. So, as a woman in tech, can you share your career journey and how you got to where you are today?
Sure. So my experience in the tech industry has actually been predominantly as a marketer of different technology platforms. I started out on the communication side of marketing, but always in an environment where what I was selling or telling stories around was a tech platform. And I think when I think about sort of the way in which I've interacted with technology, it's been both as someone who has marketed and sold it, but also someone who has increasingly used it, throughout my career, and how important that has been to my own advancement in my job. So, just by way of example, when I was younger in my career was around the time at which some of these sales and marketing platforms, automation platforms, were coming out, and I was a primary buyer for these platforms. But they were very new to everyone, and nobody really understood the power that they would have, but everybody understood that marketing needed to somehow be measurable. And so I was sort of one of the early adopters of these marketing platforms that allowed you to measure the impact that you were driving through your programs and so forth. So it really impacted me in that way. And then, I just continued in my career finding companies that I could bring my skill set to that were in the tech space and help them to establish themselves.
That's great. I mean, it's so great that you've had the practical side of tech, right? Because you've not only just learned it, you're not just book smart, but you actually did it, which is really great. I love that.
Exactly.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, our future is girls, young girls coming into technology. It is so important for us to influence them, motivate them, and guide them to thinking about a career in tech. Can you share some of the ways that you're thinking about doing this?
Yes, absolutely. So I actually have a 14-year-old daughter. I have a 14-year-old daughter and a 16-year-old son. And so, I think just by the fact that their mother works in technology and works full time and has for all of their existence, is part of how I am thinking about the importance of bringing tech to at least, my family. My daughter specifically has shown much more of an affinity for math and science than I certainly ever did growing up, and technology for that matter. And I think that is actually, one of the positives of our education system right now in our curriculum, and at least the public, I live in Montclair, New Jersey, and the public schools out there, is that there is a very concerted effort around making sure that kids, especially girls, have access to STEM education and and understand the various different opportunities ahead of them. From a mentorship or organizational perspective, I don't do anything personally with any organizations right now. I actually am just so strapped with my day job and my night job. But we as an organization at Transfix are very focused on making sure that we have a lot of women in different seats across the organization. And our director of engineering is a female. And she's incredible, and she's cultivating an environment where, different diverse candidates are interested in coming in and working at Transfix. So I think, it's more through just like everyday interactions and a concerted effort to make sure that the women in my life, whether it's at work or, at home, have access to information and education around, STEM and so forth.
I love that. That's great. Having that introduction to kids in school is so important, because that's, ages 8 to 13 is when they're very much influenced by
that's exactly right.
Learning, right? And so if you pass that and you've never introduced it to them, then you've lost it. So that's, I'm so excited to hear you say that about the New Jersey school system. So that's great. Okay, so you talked about Transfix a little bit. So what is Transfix's mission regarding DEI and women empowerment, both inside and outside the workplace?
Yeah, it's very much part of our ethos. So Transfix, just, to level set, Transfix is an AI and data-driven freight technology platform. Okay. So what we do is we connect shippers. So think about all the big brands that you buy products from. We connect them with trucking companies to be able to move their goods across the United States. So we're primarily North America. And, the genesis of Transfix came about because one of our co-founders had grown up in the trucking industry and recognized how incredibly inefficient and wasteful it was, and also how much it catered towards the big guys and not the small guys. And what I mean by that is a small trucking company does not have the access to a big shipper that a big trucking company does. And most of those small trucking companies are owned by diverse people, whether it's people of color, whether it's women, whether it's, veterans, all different types of diversity. And so they sought out to create a technology platform that would effectively level the playing field and give access to this subset of small businesses in the trucking industry, give them access to the bigger shippers so that they could build business around it. So just from the day one, that was sort of the mission of Transfix, was to kind of level the playing field and drive inefficiencies out of the system. What we have done since then has been very proactively thinking about our impact, how we can impact the greater sustainability initiatives, diversity initiatives, and so forth. Everything from the products that we put out and how we help shippers figure out ways in which they can take advantage of capacity. So what we call capacity, which is an empty truck going from one place to another and not be wasteful in that, so it's not traveling empty, and so forth. But more importantly, one of the things that we're doing now is we're really looking at helping these shippers understand the makeup of their networks and who is actually transporting their goods. Is it a diverse carrier? Are they, how much of the spend that they put into transportation is going towards diverse carriers? How much are they saving, in carbon emissions by being smarter about their strategic network and how they move goods from one distribution center to another? So diversity, sustainability, all of that is very much a part of our offering as a business. And then in terms of, who we are as a business, it is front and center in everything that we do. So our hiring practices. Our recruiters are all trained in ensuring that they are going out to a diverse candidate pool. And then internally, we have amazing employee resource groups for all different types of diversity, if you will. And these are very much sort of safe spaces for our people to, converse and have, interactions with like-minded people. They do a lot of, fundraising and give back initiatives as well. So it really is part and parcel of who we are as a business, ourselves internally, and what we try to offer to our customers as well.
Wow, that is amazing. I love how they are so integrated into the whole DEI concept with the diversity, both in your truckers and vendors and everywhere, right? They're really looking, and they're looking at data to make better decisions.
That's exactly
which is
right.
So amazing. So amazing.
Exactly
I love that. So as a woman, why do you love to work at Transfix, and how does the organization empower you to push the industry forward for other female professionals?
Yeah. I mean, it's no secret that the transportation industry is, historically a very white male dominated industry. But I will say I've seen, even in my short time in this industry in particular, I've seen a lot of increase in the number of women in, these seats. And, some of our most important customers, the day-to-day contacts that we have, are women who are, in transportation management, logistics management positions, which is, I think, new. It's something that really has only occurred in the past, 5 to 10 years, 5 to 8 years. I think when you look at the technology side of our industry, there are just, I think you'll find more diversity there because, it's more of the tech pool of talent than the logistics pool of talent. But that said, there's still a ton of work to be done. I think we're all at the beginning of our journey, and, making sure that there is a strong diversity in opinion and voice that comes from, diversity and experience and so forth. I have really always worked in kind of male dominated industries, and, in some areas been more successful than others. But it's sort of just, what I'm used to. And I like having a different voice than the rest of the people at the table.
That's great.
It's just what I thrive on.
To be different. You don't want to be the same voice that everybody's saying, right? That's really great. So I guess this next question kind of is something you've answered already, but why did you feel encouraged and empowered to join a predominantly male industry, which, the trucking is and fleet management is? What challenges have you experienced because of this?
So why did I feel empowered? I felt empowered because I like taking on this kind of a challenge. I like coming into an industry and, being challenged by the fact that people aren't used to hearing from, someone like me. It's also, exactly. And I felt encouraged to join this company in particular because of the people. There was not a moment in, my early interview process or discussions where I felt in any way whatsoever that, I was at a disadvantage for, being a female. In fact, I think, it was very much an advantage because they were consciously looking for female leadership.
That's great.
I mean, I think one of the things that's actually really interesting about our company right now, anyway, on the sales side, is that the leadership on the sales side is female, but all of the sales people themselves are male. And I think it's a very interesting dynamic. I obviously want to drive more female sales reps into the seats, but right now it's an interesting dynamic because we have, the management structure as predominantly female, and then the actual sales executives as mostly male. But I actually think it brings a different approach to things.
Perspective. Yeah. No, that's great. That's great. I love what your company is doing. So any challenges that you can think of, can you share with us one of the biggest challenges in your career and how you overcame it?
Yes. So, this is more general than specific,
Yeah,
but
no, that's fine.
so I am nearing my 50th birthday.
Oh, happy
And
birthday.
thank you.
Been there,
And
done that.
it's funny because it feels somewhat empowering, as scary as it is.
Yes,
But
obviously, yes.
yeah. So, but when I was early in my career, the biggest challenges that I faced were from other women in
Mm,
leadership positions. And I
mm,
think it's because, back then there were even fewer women, in the workforce trying to make careers out of it and
mhm,
not just that they're sort of biding time. And I was very serious about my career at an early age, and but I was also knew I wanted to have a family and all of that.
mhm,
And
mhm,
I think I threatened, for whatever reason, these women who had been toiling, in the male dominated industries
mhm,
and maybe didn't have all the things that they saw ahead of me.
mhm,
And so it was actually very challenging. They were not my allies. And so when I
mhm.
started to get, advanced in my career, it became very, very important to me to be a leader who was an ally to women. And not just passively, more actively. And so,
Mhm.
some of the ways that I do that is just, I don't, it's not a big organizational thing where I go out and I speak at different things. It's more, you know, partnership internally and making sure that there's space for women to come and talk to me about my career journey. I
Mhm.
hosted a female happy hour the other day, impromptu, which was just a chance to kind of get all the women in the office together and just talk about different things. And so while I don't do anything formally, I do a lot of it informally.
Yeah, no, that's great. And everything you do makes a difference. So
Yeah,
it doesn't have to be one big thing. It can be several little things,
yeah,
just the
yep,
motivation or them seeing you in a position, in a leadership position makes them feel, oh, I can do that. If she can do it, I can do it.
yep,
It's very
yep,
important for us to always be that role model. And
yep.
I'm sorry to hear that, women in leadership
Yeah, and I mean, it
positions
was, we're
felt
talking
threatened,
30
but that's
years
not,
ago.
you're not alone.
Yeah,
You're not alone. There
yeah.
are, many women that will say that. And there's actually a saying that comes from that. There's a special place in hell for women who don't
Yeah,
help other women.
yes, yes. Agreed, agreed.
Yeah,
And,
yep. You
and
need
I
to
have
help other women.
purposely,
That's,
yeah,
yeah,
yep,
we're on
I
the same
agree.
page. Yep, that's
Yep.
great. All right. So Rachel, who inspires you and why?
Um, I don't think there's any one person that I,
Hmm.
look to for inspiration. I think I do what I do because I actually like the challenges that I face every day. And I'm inspired by the fact that I have progressed in my career and I have,
Hmm.
it was not, by accident. I have been very deliberate and very,
Hmm.
advocated for myself every step of the way,
Hmm.
which is actually something that I tell, younger women too,
Hmm.
how important
Hmm.
that is. So I think, what inspires me is getting to the next stage and being
Nice.
successful and
Hmm.
being able to go home to my kids and tell them, what I've done and answer their questions on what it's like to, be in this business tech crazy logistics world,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
how I fight the challenges. And there, and I'm very open with my children about good days and bad days. And, they've seen ups and downs in my career. But I think that what inspires me is, myself being able to achieve things and being able to show that to my children
And then moving up to that next
and
level.
moving on.
What
Yeah,
does
I think,
success look like? Yeah,
yeah.
that's amazing. You've done such a great job in building your career with lots of learned lessons that were very deliberate on your part, that made it happen. It didn't just happen by accident. And I think that's what our listeners should be very in tune with, to see how much work it takes to really be deliberate about your
Yes,
intentions, because that is really, really critical.
yes. And be curious, right? I mean,
Right.
I think one of the reasons I've been successful in my career is because I am, always curious and I'm always asking questions and I'm not afraid to ask the hard question or ask the questions that may be easy that I just don't know the answers to,
Right.
and, and I think that's really important, is to be able to identify your deficits and fill them by being curious and asking
I love that.
questions and
I love that.
reading
I
and all of
always ask a lot of questions because I learned that way, right? I mean,
Yes,
if we don't
exactly.
ask, we don't learn. And there's no question that's stupid that
Exactly.
you feel, oh, it's stupid, I shouldn't ask. It's the one that you don't ask is the stupid
Exactly.
question.
I agree.
So,
And
yeah,
if you're in a room full of people who make you feel stupid for asking that question, that's their issue, not
that's
yours.
their reason. Yeah, it's on them.
Yeah.
All right. So, Rachel, this is a selfish question because I'm building a bucket list of places I want to travel to. So, what is your most favorite place that you've traveled to and why?
So, I'm going to answer it a little differently than my most favorite.
That's fine.
Well,
That's
maybe
fine.
it's not that. So it's not that different. So, when I was young, I got the chance to go to Israel as a teenager and fell in love with the country. Years
Nice.
later, I went back as a student and studied there. And then years later, went back in my career. I was actually working at a company that was doing tech events in Israel. So went back there then. I have not brought my family to Israel yet. And we have just secured flights to Israel
Nice. Oh,
for
that's
the end
great.
of June, early July. And
Nice.
it's an incredible place. Don't be scared by be aware of what's going on there right now, but don't not go because of it.
Right. You got to
But
go and experience it.
it's an incredible, incredible place.
I have a friend that just went there and she said, oh my God, it is amazing. So it's definitely on my list. And with your recommendation, I'm definitely going to make sure I get there at some point. So that's great. Great. So in closing, what advice would you give a woman that might be thinking about a career in technology?
I would say technology is a very, 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 very big sphere, if you will. There are many different opportunities to be involved in technology that are not direct, IT or engineering.
Right.
You can work at a technology company in a creative role. You can work at a technology company, in a data science role. There are so many avenues. So I think
love
really
that because people think technology is coding always. And it's not.
And it's
Look
not.
at you in
That's
marketing,
exactly
right? Yeah.
That's exactly right. So I think, identifying what your passion is, regardless of technology, is key. And if you can identify that early on, then try lots of different things. But in today's world, technology is going to intercept you at many, many different points, and you just have to decide where you want to play in it. But like I said before, be curious, ask questions, do your research, do your reading, look at different companies, that are driven by technology or selling technology, or there are many different ways to sort of slice that onion, if you will, peel that onion when it comes to tech.
That's great advice. I love the being curious, do your research, do your reading, make sure it's for you, but know that there's just not one place in IT. There's such a big sphere, like you said, and there's so many jobs, right? So there's something in there for you.
Yep. And don't underestimate learning on the job. Learning on the job is probably one of the most important things.
And very
that
important.
You can do.
Practical knowledge, like you said, is so critical. Yep.
Yes.
I love that. So could you share with our listeners how they can get a hold of you?
Yes. So I am on LinkedIn, Rachel Meranus. That's probably the easiest place to find me, because I am always on LinkedIn. So just look me up there and connect with me there, and let's start a conversation.
Great. I love it. Well, thank you, Rachel. It was an honor and a pleasure to have you on the show. And I look forward to maybe at a future date to have you back.
Oh, thank you so much, Jennifer. It was really wonderful speaking with you. I appreciate the time.
Sure. Thank you.
All right. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to Tech in the Right Direction. Please take a minute to subscribe or follow so that you never miss an episode.
Also, don't forget to like, share, and comment. Thank you. See you next week.
From IT skill enhancements to end-user adoption training, Directions Training is your resource to help optimize the effectiveness of your technology investments. Over 500,000 students have taken advantage of our wide selection of technology and business training solutions covering the most popular applications today, such as Microsoft 365, Azure, Windows 10, and more. As a podcast listener, we invite you to take advantage of an exclusive offer. Receive 30 days of free access to our Microsoft official curriculum on-demand courses for IT professionals or end users. Visit us at www.directionstraining.com/podcast to claim this offer today. Hurry, this offer is only available for a limited time. Success is a journey. Ask for directions.